What up, reader fam? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my most anticipated book releases of fall 2021, aka the books that I'll buy right away and let sit on my shelves for over a year before I even touch them. At least I do eventually end up reading them. It just might take a year or two to get to some of them. I went on a book hunt down looking for books coming out this fall that I felt would be right up my alley, and I compiled a list of 10 books. Let's get to it. First up, The Lighthouse, which is coming out October 1st. This is a gothic thriller about these two sisters who go missing on this remote Scottish island. Then we time jump 20 years and one of them is found. But the catch is she's still the same age as she was when she was lost. Spooky, mysterious, intriguing. I have a mighty need for this book. I just want to know if this girl found a time loop. Like, did she kill her sister, then found the time loop and hid for years and was just chilling and then finally was like, yo, I feel guilty. And so she left the time loop. Like, that's where my Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children mind is sending me. Where you been, girl? What's going on, girl? Also, why have you not aged, girl? I need to know for a friend. Next up, Daughter of the Deep, coming out October 5th. This is Rick Riordan's first book outside of the Percy Jackson world in a very long time, which is kind of wild. It's a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea retelling. Funny how I have no desire to read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and yet I have a strong urge to read this retelling. It's probably because it's Rick Riordan. Would I be interested in it if anybody else wrote it? Probably not. I've got a Rick bias. I see Rick Riordan's name, it's in the cart. To the checkout we go. Also, for all y'all who come at me for mispronouncing his name,
this is Rick Riordan.
Rick Riordan? I'm sorry, Rick, can you say that again?
This is Rick Riordan.
Riordan? Yeah, that's right. It's Riordan. Stop coming for me. Trust me, I know I mispronounce things all the time, but Riordan is not the one that I mispronounce. Next up, I have The Spirit Engineer, coming out October 7th. This is based on the true story of William Crawford Jackson and the medium Kathleen Gallagher. We follow William, who is a skeptic when it comes to seances, but when he sits down one night in a circle with a group of people, voices start speaking to him from beyond the veil. This just feels like the best spooky season book. Even though I feel like I hardly read spooky books during spooky season, I want to try to read some this year. The mood reader in me is like, LOL, sure, Jan. I've honestly never heard of the people that this book is based on, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research before I get into it. But this sounds really solid to me. I don't know how I feel about mediums in general, but that doesn't mean I don't want to read about one. Next on my list, I've got Jadefire Gold, coming out October 12th. A lost heir meets a girl who wants to help her reclaim her throne. The lost heir is beginning to unlock her past and hone her lethal magical abilities. Dangerous magic, high-strung action, and fast pacing. What more could you want in a young adult fantasy? I've been following this author on Twitter for a while now, and I feel like this book has been out for a century because I followed the author. Like, a part of me was like, oh, it's just now coming out? I feel like it's been out forever. That's not the case. You know what's gonna be my biggest struggle with this book? Do I want the American cover or do I want the UK cover? The answer is both, because they're both beautiful. Next up on my list, I have The Keeper of the Night, coming out on October 12th. This is the start of a new duology set in the 1890s in Japan. We follow a half-reaper, half-shinigami who is seeking out her destiny. You all probably already know what the selling point of this book was for me. Japan. I feel like Japan is just the best setting for some kind of fantasy book, and yet there is a major lack of books that are fantasy that are set in Japan. At least in young adult. I'm not sure about the adult fantasy genre. I need to do more research in that realm. I also love the idea of it following a shinigami. I love the Death Note anime and manga, so of course that's immediately where my brain goes. Next up, we've got Ferryman, coming out October 12th. This story is about a girl who dies in a train crash and she wakes up thinking that she's still alive. But then she meets Tristan, who is a ferryman and is tasked with the goal of safely carrying Dylan's soul into its next chapter. But it's going to be an adventure doing so, and the journey is treacherous. I just love the sound of this one. I've read my fair share of books about death. I love death. Well, reading about death. I don't love death. I love reading about it. Yeah, I've never read one that sounds quite like this one. I love the concept of there being a guide who leads you to your next chapter after you die. It sounds, dare I say, fun. Like, I know death is not a fun topic, obviously, but this feels like it's gonna be a fun adventure getting the soul to the other side. No matter how I frame it, it sounds bad. You get the idea. Next up, we've got You've Reached Sam, which comes out November 9th. In this book, we follow Julie, who has her life completely set before her. She's made big plans with her boyfriend Sam, but that's all before he dies. Filled with grief, one day she calls up his phone just to hear his voicemail so she can hear his voice again, but when she calls, Sam picks up. It's the way I've had an arc of this book for months and I've been avoiding it because I know it's gonna jack me up. Once I get on the horse, it's gonna be a journey into the forest of sadness. So what I'm gonna do is gather all these books that make me happy and just have them on hand while I'm reading You've Reached Sam. That way when I finish it, I'll be surrounded by happiness. I'll pick up a book that makes me happy to get me out of the forest of sadness. That's how I'm gonna survive this book. Or try to survive at least. Next on my list is Our Violent Ends, coming out November 16th. This is the sequel to Our Violent Delight. Delights. And if you've been following along at all this year, then you know that Our Violent Delights was one of my favorite reads this year. It's essentially a loose Romeo and Juliet retelling that takes place in Shanghai in the 1920s. You know, going in, I was worried that I was going to smother me in romance, but pals, this was the slowest of slow burn when it comes to romance. In fact, there are minuscule traces of romance threaded throughout this book. That's the way I like it. Now, if the sequel is smothered in romance, I'll be okay with it, only because we've got a small build up to that point. It wasn't a cannonball into the deep end situation. I can work with that. I also love these Violent Delights because of the mystery plot, and I feel like that's going to carry over quite a bit into the sequel. I'm looking forward to seeing how that all gets resolved. Next up, we've got Believe Me coming out November 16th. This is a novella that takes place after the last book in the Shatter Me series. Is it ever going to actually end? I know I don't need to read this, but I'm probably going to anyway. I can't really say what goes down in this one because it takes place after the last book, but I'm just overall feeling iffy about it. I don't even know if I'm gonna like it, which you might be wondering, like, why am I anticipating it? And I agree. I don't know why I'm anticipating it, but I'm just kind of curious, maybe. Maybe it's more so my curiosity. I need to know what happens after the fact. But just in general, I kind of felt like the expansion of the series was just not necessary. Personally, that's just how I felt. It's okay if you feel differently. Like, I got to the finish line of that series and I just felt nothing. Also, can we talk about how out of place this cover is? It really said, I don't want to be like all the other book cover girlies. I want to make everyone look at me. Finally, the last book on my list is Cytonic, coming out November 23rd. This is the third book in the Skyward series, and in it we follow Spensa, whose dream has always been to become a pilot. But because of her dad's past, it's not really looking that great for Spensa. When she discovers the wreckage of an ancient ship, she realizes that this might be the ticket to making her pilot dreams possible. Am I caught up with the series yet? No. Is that gonna stop me from picking this up? No, I can't be stopped. I'm a monster. Don't forget it. I need some kind of Brand Sand readathon to get me back on track with this man's books. I am more behind than I am happy to admit. It's not fun seeing everyone else in the Brandon Sanderson playground having fun and feeling like I'm being left out. But that's also me pulling the victim card, because whose fault is it for being left out? My own. Alright guys, those are 10 books that I am anticipating the release of this fall time. You guys should let me know down below in the comments some of your most anticipated releases coming out this fall. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye. Oh. What up, reader fam? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my most anticipated book of the yep.